Hurricane Ada has now strengthened to a major Category 4 hurricane as I'm recording this video, really unexpectedly here, but it is now, believe it or not, a major Category 4 hurricane here, winds up to 130 miles per hour here, and it is continuing to make its closest approach and moving into Central America here in Honduras, Nicaragua, before making its way back into the Caribbean and towards the Gulf Coast. So what do we have to say here? Life-threatening storms or catastrophic winds, we could get up to 2 meters of rainfall, 1 meters of rainfall at least, guys, at least here. Really, this entire area here is at risk again. The storm is continuing to rapidly intensify, winds up to 130 miles per hour with a pressure of 948 millibars here, and moving ever slower now at 9 miles per hour is expected to continue, and is only expected to make landfall tomorrow morning, so it still have 12 hours to continue to strengthen, if more. It still has more than 12 hours to continue to strengthen here as it moves on here again in this general direction. And it still has more than 12 hours. And we could also see a new system pop out here. Here's the current satellite imagery, and you can see what I'm talking about here with this system when I say that it's rapidly strengthening. I mean, if we pause it here at the last frame here, well, you can see what we're looking at here. We're looking at a full ring of negative 90, guys. Negative 90-degree cloud tops, a full ring. And then the storm itself, look how big it is. It is stretching its convection out really far, so that's blocking any dry air intrusion. We do have maybe a little bit of a dry air, maybe something, a little dry spot here. But for the most part, it's blocking. And you can see how close now the eyewall here. We're getting very strong tropical force wind here. This entire area here. We do have hurricane warnings for most of the coast here. But this is expected to drift like this and then move back a little bit, generally like this. And again, it is a Category 4 hurricane. You can see that eye here, a very small pinhole eye, having some trouble. But still, negative 90 degrees. If we go back to the beginning of that loop here, this is what it looked like earlier. See, we had a very eye. We had a much more disorganized storm, some bending to the south, bending to the north here. But if we move it back now to what it's been looking like in the last few hours, then it looked like this, and now look what it's looking like here. Now we have very strong bending to the north, very strong bending to the north, very strong bending to the south. And this is where, it's getting sucked in here. You're getting all that moisture here, taking from Central America over there, and then here it's getting pushed back out with that banding to the north. And overall, we just have a very organized system with those wind here concentrated. If we look at the current forecast, the National Hurricane Center is now calling for a 150 mile per hour landfall here. Again, in Nicaragua, you can see right here that wind field extending out pretty much this big. So if we take this into consideration, pretty much this entire area should experience tropical storm winds, and then hurricane warnings here are in effect here. Again, hurricane warnings here in effect. And as you can see on this forecast code, it's expected to weaken significantly, but then merge back out of the Caribbean, which has extremely warm waters, as well as very little wind shear, if not no wind shear. We could actually here re-strengthen here and move something like this. A lot of models now have been predicting a Cuba landfall, then a Florida landfall, then potentially moving into the Gulf and making another panhandle landfall. We've even had one GFS front showing it do this. Okay, we had one GFS front showing it do this, but either way, it's going to be coming back here in this general area of moisture. Now, whether the storm is still intact by this point, or it's only half of it, or the remnants reform into a new storm called Zeta Data, that is yet to be seen. But either way, it's going to be making landfall as a strong Category 4, and if not a Category 5, because the problem here is we haven't had recon since 8 a.m. this morning, so we don't know how strong it is. National Hurricane Center went with 130 miles per hour. It could be, here's the thing here, it could be up to 160, 170 miles per hour, but it could be down to 115, 110 miles per hour. So it could be anywhere from like a 2 to a 5 right now. More likely to be a 5, but we still don't have a recon in there. Now, if you look at the intensity models here for the system, as you can see, currently a weak Category 4 hurricane. I do think right now it's a strong Cat 4, if not a Category 5. But weak Cat 4 is acceptable. It's just kind of annoying that we don't know how strong it is. But Some models expect some strengthening for the next 12 hours, maybe to strong Cat 4. Some models expect more strengthening for the next 36 hours, maybe to Cat 5. But most models show remaining this intensity and then really dropping pretty significantly down to tropical depression before starting to re-strengthen here once again as it moves over in about a week or so into the Western Caribbean. Couple models keep it as a Cat 3, very unlikely. I mean, right now, this is what I'm thinking. I'm already going strong Category 4 here, but this is my model right now. Just pretty much straight down the weakening and then some strengthening back after that again as it gets into the Caribbean. If you look at those models here, once again, similar situation. The system's right here, expected to make landfall in about 12, 18 hours or so. And then it's going to be staying a good 2 to 3 days over land, which is really going to be dissipating it, or at least really, we don't even know if we'll still have a closed low. We don't know if we'll still have an intact storm at this point, which is why I'm saying it could dissipate, and then from the remnants of that moisture area getting pushed in here, and then we'll have a general area of moisture in the Western Caribbean, where into that we could get a new tropical cyclone forming here and then pushing towards Cuba, of course, because right now, again, this low pressure was embedded in this already area of moisture, so I wouldn't be surprised if it dissipates over land and then the general area of moisture left behind here, especially in this area here of the Western Caribbean. It's good. Really here, I think we're going to be getting a subcategory storm forming here with the area of moisture left behind in that area. Now, if we look, for example, as the HWF model, you're going to be able to see that it's already showing, it is currently showing are those the winds here? It is currently forecasting here. If we go to the 10 millimeter wind here, it's currently showing that right now it will be around 120 knots, which is fairly accurate right now. That would mean about 935 miles per hour. And then they're actually forecasting it to weaken, okay? They're not forecasting it for this to strengthen any further. They're just forecasting weakening now on then and then making a 105 mile per hour landfall. So they're just expecting this to be a Category 2 at landfall at this point. And the reason for that here is we're going to be having a little bit more shear starting to push in. We're going to be having a little bit of colder water temperatures and a little bit of shallow water temperatures, as well as a little bit more land interaction. So models are starting to enhance that this could be a peak intensity. It could just weaken from now on, which is of course a possibility. If we look at it very quick on the IR satellite imagery here, you can see that right now they expect this to look like this. It does not look as organized as this, of course. It does have a lot less convection concentrated here, and it does look a lot less organized, and they really expected it to blow up. But of course, we now know that it does not look like this, and then they do expect it to re-strengthen into something, but that's yet to be seen. If we look at the GFS, on the other hand, GFS is also hasn't rendered out yet, but it's only showing it being 68 knots right now, which once again, that was 42 hours ago. So we don't know what it's going to be right now, but that's what we're looking at here. But it's really crazy, this entire thing to see. If we go here on Mike's weather page, if we look here on Mike's weather page really quick, you're gonna be able to see that we have very little to no wind shear again. It's just crazy what we're having to deal with. And again, we have about 5 to 10 knots, and it will increase to about 20 knots before landfall potentially. So what can we say about this, guys? This is likely to become a Category 5 hurricane before landfall. Unfortunately, the eye has continued to pop out. Now you can see we have a very well-defined eye on that latest frame. Very small pinhole eye, but a very well-defined eye. This is continuing here to a little bit branch out, which we're going to have to see what happens with that. And other than that, I mean, the convection has starting to weaken a little bit here on the sides here, but still have very strong convection. So please take precautions. I'll have a live streaming event here tonight. So if you guys want to see that, please subscribe and take a very close